Welcome back to the channel. As I was trying to get out into the newbie garage, I came up to the door and pulled down on the handle, and nothing at all happens. Am I locked inside the house? I'm not locked inside the house because I can pull up on the handle this way, and the door does open. It's only when I pull down. And as you can see, as I'm pulling down, this is not moving. Only when I pull up. Now I do have one of these fancy keyless entry pads on the door. I thought maybe that's the problem, but we'll see, because on this side, of course, when the door is locked, it doesn't matter if you pull up or pull down, this doesn't move. So is that a failure in this unit, or is it something else? Let's find out. So the first thing I want to do is try to open up this guy, and there is one Phillips screw right there. So let's go ahead and remove that, take off this plate, see what we see. And we see some batteries, so I imagine I want to get rid of those. So let's pull those out. And we can see that these two screw holes here, they were accessible before I took the batteries out, that's fine. And then the third one was hidden underneath the batteries right there. So grab your Phillips screwdriver and pull those three out. So those three screws are out. Now the whole assembly is nice and loose. Before you pull that assembly off, though, you might want to make sure that the door is open for you, because you might want to get around to the outside. And if you pull all this out with the door closed, you might not be able to open the door at all. Okay, so now that we got the screws out, let's pull this guy off. And we can see we have an electrical connection here that would be used to power the outside opener using the batteries in here. So let's go ahead and disconnect that. In case you're curious on how to do that, you'll find out it's just a simple ribbon cable with the connector in here. You just pull it off, pulls off and pushes back on. I believe it only goes on one way, so you don't have to worry too much about that. All right, let's see what's next. So this square pin, that goes into the back side of your handle and does the turning action. So let's try to emulate that turning action with my wrench, and we'll see if the striker moves at all. I'm pretty sure it won't, because we've already tested this with the handle on. So you can see I've turned it starting at 0, turning it a full 90 degrees does nothing. When you turn it a bit more, you can see it start to move, but not very much. So that's not going to work. It's not going to open the door. Conversely, if you pull up on it, you'll see that striker move right at 45 degrees, which is what it's supposed to do, 45 degrees. So that's sort of leading me to believe that it's not the power opener, and it's something to do with the latch mechanism inside. Let's get this cover plate off. It looks like it's held on by 1, 2, 3, just those 3 Phillips screws. So let's pull those off, and we'll remove this plate. So once you get those screws off, the plate will just sort of fall there. It's hanging on the cable. It's fine. You can see now the latch mechanism here, and we're pretty sure that that's failed. And as a matter of fact, it might be hard to see, but there's a little piece right there, which is kind of curious, and a little bit of a smoking gun. See that? Let's put that aside and we'll come back to that in a minute. Let's go ahead and get this guy out. It's being held in again by another 2 Phillips screws, top and bottom. Again, just take your screwdriver and pull that out. So the screws have been removed, but you'll see that because of the way that the mount works, through here and through here, those are the mounting holes for the opener on the other side. So I'm going to have to take the opener off, and to do that I'll have to fish this connector out of its hole here, which should be relatively straightforward. There we go. And now we'll come around to the front and should just be able to pull this little guy off. There we go. There's the cable. And now we should just be able to pull this right out of the door. Well, once we get our pin out, there's the pin out. And here's the piece. So let's take a close look at that. So here's that piece that I found inside the hole, and here's the top of the latch, and this is broken here. You can actually exercise this a bit by turning it with your hands, and you'll see that that part that's moving is supposed to engage on the mechanism much earlier. Well, it's not engaging at all, of course, because it's broken, but it's nothing to engage on. Whereas the other side, you can't actually see it maybe. It's hard to see, but it engages right away. And so the door will open at 45 degrees. So it's this piece that is bad. So let's hop on the internet and see if we can find something similar. 15 minutes later, Amazon's arrived. What do we got? There's the cylinder. And looks like they gave us a new striker plate, which I don't need, and some screws, which don't really need either, but that's fine. Let's try to compare these two units. Okay, very, very similar. Let's see, let's set the new one at 70 because that's what the old one was set at. 70, 70. Yeah, those look pretty good. So I'm going to take the new one and reverse the process and get that reinstalled and see how it works. So it should be a matter of just slipping this in. It looks like the hole isn't quite perfect. Let's take that back out and compare to the other one again real quick. Right, so you can see how the new one on the left has squared off corners while the one on the right has rounded off corners. So I'm going to find a chisel or something so that I can go back to the door and make it fit a little better. So I've gone and grabbed myself a small bladed chisel. Doesn't have to be very wide at all. And then a hammer to drive it with. So what you're going to want to do, come back to the door. Instead of this rounded edge that you see here, you'll take your chisel and you'll square off that rounded part so that it's square. So let's go ahead and do that. So as you can see, the chisel has done its job and I've squared off that hole. Now let's see if the latch goes in. Ah, just like butter. Very nice. So let's get the screws in that hold it in and we'll go from there. It's in. Now let's get the exterior handle put in position and see about attaching it. Here we are. Make sure that the cable goes in first and comes through the other side, and then the rest of the handle should hopefully go in. There we go. Now I'm going to have to attach the backing plate and the 3 screws that hold that on. All right, so I was able to put the back on and I've got one of the screws in so far. It's can be a bit of a challenge because you got to make sure that the screw holes line up to the receivers on the other piece on the outside of the door. So it takes a bit of trial and error, but you should be able to get it. I'm going to go ahead and put the other screws in. Okay, so I got the plate on, screws snugged up. Let's try getting the pin in there and let's see that things work. Watch the striker here. Let's see what happens when you pull down. Nice. Goes right away. Pull up. Goes right away. Looking good. Let's get the rest of the handle put on. All right, don't forget to reattach the cable for the battery and then seat the receiver over that pin. There we go. Let's zoom out a bit. Okay. And then let's put in the 3 screws that we took out here, here, and here. All right, I got the 3 screws in. Let's see if the door still works properly. Pull it out a bit. You can see that's retracting that direction and that direction. Let's close it all the way. Closed. Open. Perfect. You may find if you tighten up these screws a little too tight that the lever won't snap back to the open position, in which case just back off those screws a little bit and you should be good. All right, let's get the batteries installed and the cover put back on. And that'll about do it. Got the cover plate back on, batteries installed, door opens either direction, pad still lights up, Fingerprint sensor opens. Should work fine. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.